The courtroom was silent, except for the sound of the judge's gavel striking hard against the wood. Michael stood frozen, his heart thundering in his chest. "You are hereby sentenced to 20 years in Blackstone Penitentiary," the judge declared. His words cut through Michael's soul like knives. Michael, a man in his mid-30s, stared ahead in disbelief. He wanted to shout, to scream that he was innocent. But his lips trembled without sound. He hadn't killed anyone. He hadn't even been near the scene. Yet, the evidence fabricated and twisted had painted him as a murderer. His mother cried in the back of the courtroom, clutching a handkerchief. His father sat stiff, face pale, his faith in the justice system shattered. Michael's eyes met theirs for one fleeting second, a silent promise that he would survive this nightmare. As the guards dragged him out in chains, Michael could hear the whispers. "Murderer, monster, he deserves it." Each word was a dagger, each look of disgust a shadow over his spirit. Blackstone Penitentiary loomed like a beast when they arrived, a fortress of rusted iron gates, cracked stone walls, and whispers of horrors inside. Michael's stomach churned. It was not just a prison. It was a graveyard for the living. The moment he entered, the smell hit him: sweat, blood, rot, and despair. Prisoners stared through the bars, hollow-eyed, some grinning with madness. The guards shoved him forward without care, as though throwing meat into a lion's den. That first night, Michael lay awake on his cot, listening to the screams that echoed down the corridors. Some were of pain, others of terror. The prison was alive, breathing darkness into every soul trapped inside. His cellmate, an old man named Harris, whispered in the dark, "This place will eat you alive if you let it. The guilty adapt, the innocent, they break faster." Michael turned away, clutching his chest, determined not to break. Days blurred into nights. He worked in the kitchen, served rotten food, scrubbed blood from the floors, and endured the constant threats from both guards and inmates. Each day was survival, each night was a battle with fear. The worst were the shadows, figures that moved when no one was there. Michael began to see them at night, crawling across the ceiling, whispering his name. He told himself it was madness, but their voices grew louder, closer. One evening, during a storm, the power went out. The prison plunged into darkness. Michael swore he felt cold hands clutching at his ankles, pulling him off his cot. He screamed, but when the lights flickered back, he was alone. Harris shook his head. "Blackstone is cursed," he muttered, "built on the graves of men wrongfully condemned. Their souls never left." Michael began to believe it. Every hallway he walked seemed filled with eyes. Every wall whispered his name. The prison wasn't just a cage. It was a haunting. But amidst the horror, Michael refused to give in. He found strength in writing letters to his parents, pouring his soul onto paper, even when he knew they might never reach them. He started helping other inmates, teaching them to read, listening to their stories, offering hope where there was none. Some mocked him, others respected him. Slowly, Michael became a light in the darkness. Still, the horrors persisted. At night, he would see Harris talking to someone invisible. One morning, Michael would find Harris hanging lifeless from the ceiling, his eyes wide in terror. Scratched into the wall beside him were the words, "Innocence does not belong here." Michael wept silently, the prison tightening its grip on his sanity. He knew the place was trying to break him, to make him one of its ghosts, but he clenched his fists and whispered to himself, "I am innocent. I will not die here." Rumors spread among inmates of a secret archive deep within the warden's office, files that contained the truth about every prisoner, even the hidden corruptions that sent them here. Michael's hope sparked again. With courage born of desperation, he began to plan. He gained trust from a guard named Lewis, a young man who had doubts about the justice system. Slowly, Michael convinced him to help. The night they broke into the archive, the air was thick with dread. Papers scattered across the floor, dusty files stacked like coffins. Michael searched feverishly until he found his case file. Inside, he discovered proof of tampered evidence, bribes, and a witness who had been threatened into lying. His heart raced. This was his salvation. But just as he clutched the file, the warden appeared, his face twisted in rage. "You don't belong here." "Michael," the warden hissed, his voice almost inhuman. "But you'll never leave. Blackstone decides who goes free, and who stays." His shadow stretched unnaturally long across the floor, eyes glowing faintly. Michael realized then the warden wasn't just a man. He was part of the curse, feeding off the misery of the innocent. A struggle broke out. Lewis fought the warden, buying Michael time to escape with the file. But Michael heard Lewis's screams echo as he fled. Back in his cell, Michael hid the documents under his mattress, heart pounding. He knew the warden would come for him, but he also knew he had something stronger than fear: the truth. Weeks later, Lewis's death was reported as an accident, but whispers spread of Michael holding secret knowledge. Guards grew wary, inmates rallied around him. He was no longer just a prisoner, he was hope. Michael began to write appeals, sending copies of the evidence through every possible channel. He faced punishments, solitary confinement, and beatings, but his will never bent. At last, after months of silence, a letter came. The court had reopened his case. His evidence had been reviewed. There was a chance, just a chance, that freedom was near. The day of his release, Michael stood at the gates of Blackstone, chains removed. The air outside tasted different, pure. His parents were waiting, tears streaming down their faces. He hugged them, vowing never to waste the life that had been nearly stolen. But as he looked back at the looming prison, he swore he saw shadows waving from the windows. Faces pressed against the bars, souls still trapped. Michael walked away with a fire in his heart. He would dedicate his life to fighting for the wrongfully condemned, to be the voice for those swallowed by darkness.